Hey everybody, we're here at Red Rocks Racing Sportsbook. I'm Chucky. This is Jason. It's our first bookend segment since Super Bowl. Really, it was a great football season. It was exciting. Don't want to talk too much about that. We know it's been over for a few weeks, but this is our first segment since then, Jay. So it's good to be back.
No, I'm looking forward to it, and obviously it's a great time of year. We get done with football, and with the lateness of the Super Bowl being an extra weekend of February, it doesn't seem like you got much rest, and we're going to be jumping into March, and March Madness is going to get us underway.
Right. With March Madness, it's that time of year again for Last Man Standing, our signature contest. It's always been a great contest, received really well by the guests, and I think the big key is that the entry. It's $25 for one entry, but if you enter for $100, you get 4 entries and you get a 5th entry free. It's just like the tournament. You win and you move on. You lose and you're out. It's really a good tournament. Same kind of format as last year. We've tweaked a few things, though, which we can kind of touch on.
Yeah, obviously the $25 entry, buy 4, get 1 free. $100 will get you the 5 entries. It's all half points, so you're not just picking a winner in the game. It's actually point spreads with half points, so no ties. Win on Thursday and
it's our contest line. Station Casinos or STN Sports contest line.
You know, it's you got to come in, make your pick for Thursday. Once you win on Thursday, you'll come in on Friday, make your pick, and so on and so forth. We've made it a little bit easier from a sign-up contest sign-ups wise, in that you don't have to select a national champion. That was always a tiebreaker for us. In case we got to people that were alive all the way through the whole tournament, we've eliminated that, so you can get signed up early. You don't have to wait to see those brackets, and somebody will end up splitting the prize at the end of the year if everybody can roll through the tournament, rather than having it go on, who you had selected 3-4 weeks ago on their national champion. The other big change for us was that we ended signups at 9 o'clock in the morning on that opening Thursday. So the opening Thursday is March 17th. We've extended that. The sign-up time will not close at 9 a.m. We're going to extend that all the way out to 5 p.m. So if you can't get here, obviously you're coming into town for that Thursday to catch all the games, still have time to sign up by 5. Just have to make sure that you select a game that starts after the time you sign up.
And that really was based on you guys. It was public demand. There were so many times where a guest would come in at 10 or 11, say, I want to sign up. I got tied up at work. I just got to town, and they couldn't. Now you can. So, again, that's been extended till 5 o'clock, which I think is a great piece. And when you speak of college basketball this year, I mean, you look at the number one team in the country. It's a revolving door. I think there's been 5 number ones. Every number one is a target on their back, and it struggled a little bit in that role. I think you could roll through the top 15 or 20 teams, and there's just a tremendous amount of parity this year.
Yeah, obviously the Zags have sat in that top spot for quite some time now. Once they got into conference play, it was very unlikely that they were going to lose a conference game. I think they're actually sitting on a 17-game win streak right now. But as you said, there's a laundry list of teams behind them, and I've gone and said I think anyone in the top 15 could potentially take this tournament. And you got a team out there, and even like a Murray State that's playing great ball.
St. Bonnie's, Davidson, Illinois, Chicago. I mean, those are a lot of those teams that if they can win their conference and get in, they're a scary team.
Well, we always talk about that opening 4-day weekend is not really about the Goliaths. It's about the Davids. And it's about who is that Cinderella story, who's going to come out of nowhere and find themselves in the Sweet 16. Arizona is another team that's at the top that has been playing really, really well. But I think there's incredible balance. You look at the teams in the ACC, the SEC, and really the Big 12. There's a lot of teams playing really good basketball. The conference tournaments, before we get to March Madness, I think these conference tournaments are going to be absolutely fantastic as well.
That's what makes it so difficult for the committee, because you have a team that's kind of a fringe team that maybe wins the conference, and it ends up maybe costing somebody a spot. This year, it's not only going to be in the book, we're going to be showing the games in Rock's Lounge as well, and the Circle Bar, so it's going to be on throughout the casino. So I think the atmosphere this year, and it's a much more traditional set where you've got the games on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Last year it was Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I think it lost a little bit on that Monday, Tuesday. It's those first 4 days again, and then the following week again, it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Just the atmosphere, the electricity, the hype, it's contagious throughout the casino, the atmosphere in the book on those days.
Yeah, and we're going to continue to push the envelope on the amount of props that we're going to be offering on the tournament games. Team to score 10 points, team to score 20 points, 3-pointers. I mean, if you can kind of think of it, we're going to have a prop on it. And again, sky's the limit on the limits. And so whatever you're looking for to bet in college basketball, that's what we're here to entertain.
Right, and it's really still a good time to get signed up for STN Sports. We still have that up to a $500 bonus for new signups all through the end of March. So get signed up now. I mean, we love it when you guys come out, and I know the atmosphere in the book is crazy for March Madness. But if you can't get here and you want to look at some of those later games, we know there's early start games, late times. Get signed up for STN Sports. It really does bring the sportsbook to you.
Yeah, we've got so many great ways for guests to actually be able to make their wagers. Obviously, starting with the STN Sports app, where you don't have to be here on property, but then we've added all the kiosks at the property, which make it so easy to get down, not in line, let alone the writers at the counter there to help you, walk you through their wagers.
And a number of different funding methods as well. So I think that's all good stuff. So, again, get signed up for STN Sports. LMS started today, last man standing for college hoops. Great time, guys, to really get in here and dive into it. It's going to be a fun college basketball tournament. Let's stay on basketball. Let's look at the NBA right now. Trade deadline passed. The All-Star game passed. We're in the second half of the season right now. And I think it's a little bit wide open, but you look at the top in the East, Chicago Bulls, without Ball, without Caruso, Williams has been out. They sit in the number one spot right now. Big surprise. They're still over 20-1 to win the NBA championship. So not a lot of respect, I think, from the bettors and maybe from our side right now as well. They've won 6 straight games. Miami's right up there, Milwaukee. But the team in the 8th spot, the Brooklyn Nets, are still the favorite in the East.
Yeah, a lot of questions on why the Nets are still the favorite, and you see the
KD,
what Durant actually means and where he ranks in the wherewithal of top players in the NBA, and so his return
and Ben Simmons
puts the Nets. And we'll see how they mesh and what Ben Simmons looks like on the floor. Obviously, it's been quite some time since he's been out, and going even further as you look at the Sixers is what will Harden mean to Embiid, and what kind of matchup will they be, and where does that rank them in the East?
I think you could make a case right now that Embiid could be the favorite for the MVP.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think he is the favorite for the MVP, and I think that East race is wide open. You talk about the Bulls and Heat, and there's several teams that can go ahead and make a run there. But we'll see what the Nets do when Durant back. They deserve to be the favorite with him back. In the West, we talk about Durant being out and being injured, and I know we have the Warriors favored to win the West, and I've said on record that I'm a big fan of the Suns, and now we see Chris Paul go out for 6 to 8 weeks, and so we really talk about 2 good players on the teams that are favored that are going to be out for quite some time, and what that means to those teams. But obviously we saw why the Warriors are favored with Steph Curry in the All-Star game pumping in those 16 threes, and so that's why the Warriors sit there at the top. But again, a deeper
Suns
race.
have won 8 in a row, though. I mean, they're in a good spot too, and even with the Paul injury, they've played really well.
Yeah, and there's other teams. Again, they're not in that top tier, but even a Clippers or
Memphis, Utah.
Yeah, well, Memphis we've talked about a lot just because of the way they play. Utah, there's several teams in that West that could cause problems. A Dallas team, a Denver team. These teams can cause problems for these teams in the top.
Interesting to see once we get to the postseason if all these teams are healthy, the kind of difference in totals in the Western Conference to the Eastern Conference in the playoffs because of those teams out West that can just throw up those threes so often.
Well, and that was specifically one of the issues in last year's playoffs was the health. Obviously, we talk about Kawhi Leonard, or we look at the Clippers in general with no George and Leonard playing right now. If they come back to the mix and what those younger guys have done kind of playing throughout the season, what type of team does that become? And one of the other things that we're doing from an NBA standpoint is, again, we always talk about this pushing the menu. We're going to add team totals to all the NBA teams, so you'll see that in there on a nightly basis. Really want to get aggressive now that we've come out of the All-Star break with football season being over, the ability to add a lot more props. So we've had some token props in there on player points scored. Look for in the coming days and weeks a lot more props on rebounds, assists, triple doubles. You'll see that NBA menu explode.
And those are all things that have been received really well by you guys, the guests. You guys kind of asked for that, and could we be more aggressive with props than we have? So we kind of talked about college basketball. We've talked about the NBA, and let's dive into hockey right now. I mean, we've got our Golden Knights right in our backyard. They're second in the Pacific right now. We know how well Calgary has played. They lose last night, but they had been on a winning streak. But you look at the Knights, and I mean, you look at Anaheim and the Kings, they're right behind them. The Knights are kind of in a dogfight right now in the Pacific. I think going into the season, you looked at the odds for all 4 hockey divisions. They were the overwhelming favorite. Colorado is still playing like they're supposed to. Carolina and Florida winning their divisions. But I think out west right now, it's a little bit of a surprise that the Knights trail Calgary.
Well, again, it comes back to who's healthy and who's on the ice and playing. I think the Knights have gone through just a horrendous season of injuries and top-tier players that are missing due to injury. Obviously, the Stone and Pacioretty, and now getting Jack Eichel back and Martin. I mean, like I said, there's a laundry list of injuries there.
But when they're all healthy, they're going to have to make some sort of a roster move, I would think.
Sure. And Eichel, I mean, we saw him score his first goal, and I'm still excited about them. Hopefully Leonard comes back and can play, but you talk about the rest of those teams in the West, and obviously the Calgary Flames sitting just above them, and they made the key move to go get Toffoli from Montreal, and that's a big big move. He's a heck of a player, and we do see teams like the Los Angeles Kings and them starting to play a lot better hockey just behind the Knights. That's going to put that pressure on them.
Well, I think it's going to be interesting now because there's a lot of rumblings of big name guys with the trade deadline. Trade deadline's not until March 21st, but I think it's going to heat up probably once the calendar changes to March. You're going to see some of these teams be aggressive. We've seen some big name guys that are potentially out there. I think out east, you look at Gallant and the way the Rangers are playing. They're kind of the one surprise, I think, out east right now. But out west, I think it's wide open. And really, as you mentioned, kind of Calgary, the Kings, and Anaheim, big surprises so far.
I wouldn't use the term wide open because the Colorado Avalanche sit
outside
on the top.
of Colorado, yeah.
There's a clear that they're the top team in the West, and then you have a ranking behind them, so they're at the top, and there's certain teams, call it 6 down, that are just not going to be able to beat the Colorado Avalanche in a series.
I think the one big question is, and it's a name that we're all familiar with, it's Marc-Andre Fleury. Chicago's out of it. They've talked about maybe potentially being in a full rebuild. They've already had offers for DeBrincat and Brandon Hagel, and what ultimately is going to happen with Kane and Tays. Does Fleury get moved? And he said if he was moved, he wants to have a chance to win it. So teams like Washington, teams like Pittsburgh, Vegas has been kind of rumbled in there, other teams out west. So if he gets moved to a contender, it really could change the balance a little bit of what happens.
And it's a good time to kind of look at those NHL futures. Absolutely. And look at what teams you could potentially get at over 20-1 or 30 or 40 to run that are just on the outside of the playoffs that potentially could get hot in the playoffs and make a deep run.
Right. It's fun to talk about this again. Second half of both basketball and hockey, college hoop tournament just around the corner. So all good stuff, but we don't quit there. I mean, we're becoming more and more aggressive. A lot of college World Series or college baseball stuff on the board. We're looking at booking the entire women's college basketball tournament. Some other props in hockey, too. Points that we've kind of put up now.
Shot props on a bunch of players.
There's a lot of cool stuff on the board right now. Just kind of get on the app, search it, and there's so many different things out there, ways to bet. We've even added the first pick the first quarterback taken in the pro football draft. Malik Willis. You looked at Pickett, Corral, Howell. There's a bunch of those guys now that I think the Combine's going to kind of set the stage for that as well.
Yeah, you're the draft nut, and the draft's going to be fun. And
it is.
I just keep going, not even draft stuff, just this NFL offseason of what's going to happen with these quarterbacks. What's going on in Green Bay? What's going on in Tampa? I mean, what's going on with the Commanders? This NFL offseason storyline is going to be really, really good and set us up for a really good next season.
You just touched on a few teams, but I mean, the franchise tag just started now, but I think free agency is the key. What ultimately happens is a guy like Russell Wilson moved? Is Aaron Rodgers moved? Is Jimmy Garoppolo moved? Is Deshaun Watson moved? Does Mitchell Trubisky get a chance to start? Any of these young kids from the year 2, do they take the next step? And are any of these guys who we talked about potentially being the first quarterback off the board, are they ready to make an impact? So I think there's going to be a lot of movement. We've got at least probably 10 or 12 or maybe even more teams that are unsettled at quarterback. And this is a quarterback-driven league. It's going to be, as you mentioned, an interesting offseason.
I'm looking forward to it. And you brought it up, there's so much on the menu. You talk about women's college basketball, men's college baseball, which we've added. Obviously, with the NBA or Major League Baseball, we should be doing some exhibition baseball right now.
I wish we were.
So we've added a lot more of the college baseball to the league. But we've also got great golf kind of starting back up. We're going to be right here in getting into golf majors, and the Masters is already starting. Yeah. And NASCAR, we're going to have a NASCAR race here coming next week here in Vegas. So a lot of the other stuff that's going on is filling up that menu.
Right. It's such an exciting time for us. I know football ended, but it really doesn't slow down because you dive into so many other stuff that's on the board right now. It's a great time, guys. Get signed up for STN Sports. We still have up to that $500 bonus going on. And again, it's Last Man Standing is here. Great time to get signed up for Last Man Standing, our college basketball tournament.
UFC fight nights, I mean, we can go on and on and on about the number of things available on the app.
It's exciting, guys. Always enjoy you guys tuning in for Bookends. I'm Jason, or I'm Chucky. This is Jason. You can tell I'm getting too excited about all this stuff going on. But anyway, we'll see you guys next week on another segment of Bookends.